All right, we're in business. Here we go.
All right. Excellent. Well, we're coming back from closed session and jumping into our open session now. And Matt, we didn't do it earlier. Hoping you can just share where we posted for public notice, and then we'll jump into the next item.
Yep. So all our agendas were posted at each of the schools, including district office and the village itself.
Great. Excellent. Just pull it up one item. Thank you. Our next item then is to share the board mission statement and agreements.
Yep. So the mission statement is we will develop policy that is representative of our community, set goals, and lead our district by collaborating. And the beliefs are stand up and own it, which is really that individual presence of understanding and taking whatever we're doing and making the most of it, what we have. And then the we are one is really the team of this group and how we can come together and lean in and really help each other as we work together to make and do the best for our district. And then courage to grow is always continue to learn and be present and be part of the process.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing again. Our next item is around our approval for consent agenda and board in your packets. There's 3 items listed on that. The first one is approval of the November 20th regular board meeting minutes. Number 2 is the approval of the November 20th policy committee meeting minutes. And then also the attached treasurer's reports and additional documents that show the detail of those. So I'll pause to see if there are any questions or any adjustments we need to make to those three items. All right, and then what we'll do is look for a motion to approve those the consent agenda on the 3 items listed.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Then roll call.
Matthew,
Yes.
Hack,
Yes.
Jaeger,
Yes.
Heckerman,
Yes.
Goldowski, yes.
Excellent. All right, our next item is board members share a moment of pride. And Steve, you get to go first this time.
Oh, good. Good. Then I can jump ahead of everybody that probably has the same things. I have 3 actually this month. The first was the Trefford Way craft sale, which is kind of nice. I'm not much into the craft stuff, but you see a lot of the staff over there and interact, which is kind of nice to do that. And then on the 6th, the Friendship here had a parent engagement or family engagement night, and I was asked to read a book in the library to the little ones. I followed a couple of tough people, but I think I held it together and got the book and read that. And trying to think of the third thing. Just the other day, the Cupcake Wars. I was a judge to do that again this year, which was pretty cool. The kids are pretty creative and have a lot of fun with it. So that was very nice too. So that's all.
I actually have 2, but I'll just go with 1 for now and maybe circle back to it if no one else has. About 2 weeks ago, I attended the middle school band concert, and they did a nice job with that. It's amazing to see them, how they grow from, 6th grade to 7th grade and how their talents progress, and they did a really nice job. So that was really enjoyable.
I was going to bring up the craft sale too at Trevor Way. I haven't heard how they made out in the end, but I know all the vendor booths were sold out, and when we were there, it was crowded. And while we were there, I actually met, they introduced me to Doug Ham, who's the newest member of the board at the Trevor Way. And so we spent quite a bit of time talking. It seems like just a great addition. He's out at Marine Park, and he's vice president of technology and teaching. And just a great guy. And him and his wife had actually volunteered to work one of the tables selling tickets there. So nice to see a new board member with great qualifications who wants to be involved and spends his own time at that event on Saturday. That was great.
Just 2 offsets of that. There's 2 other new board members that are coming on. also. So they have 3 total coming into that place. Dr. Patterson's stepping down this month, so that is a change that way. And they made around a little bit over $4,000 from that. So pretty amazing day.
I don't have anything specific, mainly because my brain is like kind of scrambled today. But kind of going off like what we have in our, it's not our board packet, but what we get from either DPI or one of those places about all the different activities that kids have and, you know, how that benefits them in general. And I think that as a school, I think we're growing and growing and growing and getting kids more involved every year with activities, and hopefully that will continue because it has a positive impact on them, whether it's sports or music or a craft show, or, I mean, anything where they can show their talents. So that's my
Awesome, and then, I just have 2 other ones. First, I think Dave's in the back there. I'm pretty sure I'm coming in virtually here, so I can see the sweatshirt, Dave, so that's good. I just to work on the construction piece, two things from that. Number one, I really enjoyed the note that went out. I thought that was a good way to keep the community connected to the great progress being made. And then number 2 is I got to spend some time with Dr. Matt a couple weeks ago, and I saw Dave in the office, and Dave came in with the biggest smile in the world to tell me about the progress they're making. So I just see your pride, Dave, and your team's pride in the work that you're doing there. So thank you for that. And then the Young Leaders Breakfast with Vision Vader Fond du Lac, you know, that's pretty cool experience for so many of our kids when it comes to like linking networking, and really how to tie like their high school journey to what a career could look like, right? It's not always the same for everyone. So awesome for them to kind of do some of that career exploration with leaders within the Fond du Lac community. So those are my items.
Can I just do a
All
quick
right.
shout out to,
Okay.
Terry's got one more shout
just one
out.
more to, middle school science teacher, Brandon Switch. He's the mastermind behind the light show over at the Optimus Park, if you got to see that. So, he did a really nice job, setting that up and being the head of that project. So I just wanted to mention his name tonight.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you everyone for your comments. Our next item is from our band's representatives. So,
Mr. Gonzalez, you want to lead us off?
Mr. Gonzalez, yeah.
Hi, everybody, how's it going? Today we're gonna highlight a few things about bands. The major theme is service to community. Dr. Mino, there is a PowerPoint presentation that I shared with you via email. If you can take some time to maybe pop that up. While this is being pulled up, the basic things that we're gonna be talking about today are the nurturing nest, and we have several staff members here that are gonna talk about that. The Giving Tree program that we're working on as well. We're gonna highlight some activities that do community service and service within our school. Talk a little bit about our student principal cabinet, our 8th grade leadership class, as well as our Oriole Leader Student Council. So, before the PowerPoint goes up, I'd like for our staff members to present themselves, and they're gonna talk a little bit about the nurturing nest. So, go ahead, Sarah.
I'm Sarah McDowell. Let's see. I'm Sarah McDowell, and I'm a 7th grade special ed teacher at Bessie Allen. And
Brenda Vanderpass, secretary.
Chrissy Walter, physical education and health and adaptive ed.
so, back in like 2017, about in the fall, we were noticing a need at school for just basic supplies, basic things, clothing items, that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, it was like, you know, kids were constantly coming to the office, they needed this, they needed that, whether it be a pair of gym shorts, whether it be tennis shoes, pants, they got rain, whatever. It was just a thing that was happening quite a bit. And we were like, okay, we're scrambling because we're like, oh, well, Sarah has stuff in her room, or we have stuff over in this room. So we just find it, we're like, this is too much. We need to figure out something so that we have a system in place. So I had, prior to coming to North Fond du Lac, I had taught in Fond du Lac, and at the middle school that I was at, we had a similar thing like this closet where we kept clothes. So I said to Brenda, I'm like, hey, let's do this. So we went over one day, we toured, I showed her what we all had done, and we took a look at it, and then from there, that morphed into something that would work for us at Bessie Allen. So that's kind of how things started. Once you get Brenda on board and you show her something, and you that know Brenda, know that then it's crazy, because she's got great ideas, and so we'll go from there. So Chrissy will kind of explain.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to join and hop on board with these ladies once they had everything started. When I first came, our space did not look like this at all. The space that we had was a very tiny space, and these beautiful cabinets that I think Mike McDowell or shelving Mike had built in there. And so it was great when I first came, and to see what it's turned into. It has just been so wonderful, not only for us to be able to show our students when they come in, but when they walk into that space, like I can say, like, I walked in with kids and they're like, oh, like, wow, like, and I'm like, you know, there's so many options there. There's winter coats, there's gloves, there's everything that you could need, from hygiene products. You know, I've had a student that I brought in there, they can find an item, I'll show them a couple different things, they can try it on, and all of a sudden 3 days later, they're like, I saw a really pretty dress in there for, you know, the concert. Could you take me back in there and could I wear it for that concert? So I am just amazed at, you know, what these ladies have built it up to be, and I'm thankful to be part of it. And I just really appreciate that we are able to have a space like this that students can walk in and feel comfortable. And the nice thing is it's off our conference room, so it's a little more, majority there's not meetings and they're going on, so it's a little more confidential for the kids, right? So we're able to go in there, they're able to see the space, and majority of the time people don't even know that they're going there, and they truly don't mind a lot. Sometimes they're like the first to be like, hey, Miss Walter, you take us into the nurse, you know, like they're not afraid to ask about it, but it just gives them a space where they're able to check out things.
And then we also give them the option too of, if they do pick out some stuff, we have bags in there, we'll put it in your locker, you know, as confidential as they want it to be, so we let them read that. But it's nice to have everything organized by size and not trying to find stuff in bins, and so this is really working out well. It's a nice space.
So how it kind of works is, we take donations in, and then once we get the donations in, people drop stuff off at the office, or staff will bring in things, or just however we get them through, you know, we have an Amazon wish list, so some things get shipped to us, but most of the stuff is just donations from staff members or people in the community. And then once the materials, the bags or whatever come in, then I'll go through the bags and I'll look through, and we kind of look to decide, this is something that a middle schooler would wear, or no, this isn't something that they would wear. And we kind of pick and choose. And then from there, you know, anything that we don't use, then we donate back to St. Vinny's or, you know, Salvation Army or something. So then anything that we're going to keep, then we go through the process of washing it and getting it ready to be into the nest. So then that's where Chrissy comes in a lot of times, because she's right by the gym. So then, you know, we'll have clothes, she'll help me sort through, we wash the clothes, we get it ready, and then we put it into the nest. Then once it's in the nest, it's kind of word of mouth. And the kids know as they start getting through at school, and the staff know to kind of watch for kids that are in need of something. If they're wearing a sweatshirt that they've worn, they wear it like every day, and you're like, you know, and that's the case, then somebody will tip off Kim Broughton, and then Kim, our guidance counselor, will call them in and have a conversation with them and offer them some things. We have students that just know, they, for whatever reason, a lot of times, not going into too much detail, but we have a lot of young ladies that need supplies and things, so they know to come to one of the staff members and to say, hey, do you have something that I'm in need of? And we say, yep, no problem, we got you. And so we go through that process, and you would think like, oh, but I mean, usually, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, it gets used every week, if not every day, every other day, that we have kids that, you know, whether they need socks for gym class, something really small. Oh yeah, we got you, you know, and a lot of times then when the kids come in and they get these things, then they just keep them, you know, you have them. We have students that have had hardship in their families, and we've had parents come in and ask, and they've gone in and kind of done some shopping. We've had fires in the community. And so we've had, during the summer, Kim will get a hold of family and they'll come in and they'll go through and just get a bunch of things. So that's kind of how it works. Like I said, it gets utilized a lot more than what you would think. And it actually feels pretty great to be able to say when a student comes in and says, hey, yeah, I'm really cool. You have a sweatshirt? Yep, got a sweatshirt. And then they go through and they find something and away they go.
You
So
usually end up seeing them wearing it a day or two later too, because they loved it that much, and that's the other part that you're just like, oh.
Being the moms we are, it's like, do you need a coat? And
Yeah,
I-
we got all the things, so.
Well, and I tried to make it a little bit more friendly to those that want to donate. Sometimes we get an overabundance of certain things. Sometimes we need more things or go through things more quickly. So we've had some inquiries as to this. So we did create an Amazon account that people can just click on because there are going to be some things that we want brand new. So we have an ongoing list on there that we'll update, and then our address is in there. So if people wanted to donate, it would be shipped to us. We also have, for those that want to shop locally, we have an in need of list too. So that's also an ongoing list, and that one will show gently used, new, both. So it'll give a good description of all of that stuff. So, and then, yeah, students can either fill out a Google form if they are in need. We do have that option for confidentiality. They can talk to us verbally, which we probably get the most of, and then emails too. We'll get those as well from students and or families. So we just try to make it as flexible as possible with respect to their confidentiality. I think a lot of kids do know that somebody gets rained on and they're soaking wet, let's go in the nursery now. So it's not just for, it's for whatever their need is, whatever student and whatever their need is, so.
I think one of our other uses too that we do is with, the basketball team, they usually on away games, they wear, they can wear their jeans, but they're asked to wear like a dressier shirt or a tie or something like that. So we get a hold of the basketball coaches, and when he gets time for those first couple of games, they'll take stuff. We'll just be like, okay, we'll just get a bunch of things together and take it to practice, and I can pick through, and then that way they have some things because they, kids these days, but it's just not one of those things, and it's like, and we know that, things are rough right now. And so to have your parents go out and buy you a shirt, they'll get a shirt, but then they have to wear it a couple times a week. They want to be able to have a little variety. So, so yeah, that's, we use it for that and for band concerts, as well, when they choir concerts, so we usually keep a nice selection of, dressier clothes too for those events.
And then we'll have like sledding events, sixth grade will go sledding, and we provide a lot of hats and gloves and boots and stuff for that as well, so.
Anybody have any questions about the nursery nest?
Did I go through these slides, or is there more than that?
Yeah, you can, I
It's the
think there's,
three for the nursery.
yeah,
That's right.
Okay.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, and then the next slide, if you want to go, you want to keep going?
Yeah, go
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so then the next part is the giving tree. So I'm sure you're aware, like at the high school and at FLC, they adopt a family and they have different things that they do during the holidays. For whatever reason, COVID and different things, change of staff, Bessie Allen kind of got out of that a little bit. So this year we brought that back. So you can see on there, what we're doing this year is the team, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade each nominated students that they felt that were in need. And then from there, Kim Broughton and Brenda kind of went through the list and looked to see, so we could pick a variety of kids from each grade level. And so then now this year we're providing, because it's something warm, blankets, something that's filling. So it's a little snack package of things, something they can wear. So socks, something to share, some candy, and then a special treat, which is either $10 to Walmart or a $10 gift card to Target. So that's something that we're starting up again. Next slide.
And we did keep in mind the students that are getting, or families, I should say, that are getting gifts from FLC. So we take that into consideration when we look at the students. So And our amazing staff at Bessie Allen did a great job of donating all the blankets, socks, and gift cards. And then we received a $500 donation from the Optimist, and then $250 from Target. So, you know, we've been able to use that money for the gift cards and the food. So, and then whatever we have extra, we'll roll over to next year. And we did just start with 30 students this year, not knowing, you know, we didn't want to overpromise or overextend and stuff. We just wanted to see how it was going to go this first year. Because in the past, we did more of the, what sizes are they? What do they, you know, and that got to be a little overwhelming, and then you don't get a lot of stuff, and now you have a family that, so we decided to focus on the students themselves, and so they'll be getting a little gift in their locker at the end of the half day on Friday.
Students won't know, we'll have it stored in their locker when they're doing the different events, and they'll come back to their locker.
And this is the first year you're doing this part?
Yep, this
Wow.
way, yeah.
Yeah, this way, yeah.
And the high school does something similar.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you can see, so Kim and Brenda kind of headed that one up, and you can see we had a really nice group of staff that were helping with that. Christina included, and then some other ones too. So that's giving treat. Any questions about that? Okay, next slide.
Next.
Yeah, I'll take over this. Our activities, been working with Miss Gordon. Every week we meet for 30 minutes on Wednesday, and we start brainstorming ways to get more students involved. So far this year, we've created new clubs in theater and drama. We're gonna have a play in May. Indoor soccer, we got 50 students signed up, ready to go in January. We have a creative imagination art club that just started a meeting after school. Chess club was proposed and we have it set up. And finally, a sports card trading club. We have a proposal for UW Extension to work with us to create a 4-H club, which will be, depending on the theme, definitely something that will also probably have 30 to 40 students. And that will be when we start to really integrate service learning into outside extracurricular activities. And we have about 56% of our students participating in at least one club or activity outside of school or in school.
And that survey was separate. That was something that was sent out to all BAMs, all of high school. It's
Yeah.
different, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So then, a neat thing, is student principal cabinet. I've met with a group of 30 students or so 3 times already. And it was 25 members at the outset, it was 30 the last meeting. They give great suggestions from a student voice perspective, and it really helps to guide our work. A lot of their ideas are gonna come up in our scheduling changes in framework and design as well. It's kind of neat to see how teachers and staff think one way and the students align with that thinking. The 8th grade leadership class was established last year, and this is their 2nd year in existence. They're gonna be working with high school leadership class, and they're gonna be mentoring them. That's more to come, but that's a project for 2nd semester. This 8th grade leadership class has put safety signs in the community. They worked on the sign that's in front of our school. They've done some communication about school events. They created a tidy up program that cleans up the school. And the fun thing is that they created an Oriole Time Friday trivia contest that has our staff members in a tizzy because they're competing with each other to see who's the best class. So that's awesome. I just wanted to shout out to Mr. Whitaker and the 8th grade students for doing that. And Oriole leaders and student council, Ms. McDowell, Mr. Hughes, and Mr. Mickey. There's Mrs. McDowell right there.
Shining star.
They participate in Salvation Army bell ringing at Pick and Save. They have a welcoming new student program. They did the light up the park. They helped Mr. Swiggs over there in the North Fond du Lac Optimists. Every so often they do a Heavenly Hat project, or that day the kids can wear hats for $1, and then we donate it to the Heavenly Hat Foundation. We raise hundreds of dollars that way. We sponsor canned food drives, and we do marketing of our building and by doing dances and having dress up days as well. And the last slide kind of highlights other things that we've done this year, like our Veterans Day program. The 7th grade team really helped organize that. We wrote how many letters to veterans?
We had over almost 300 letters to veterans. And then what we do with our veterans letters, we keep them local. So in Fond du Lac at the VA there, they have a activity on Veterans Day, that when the veterans come in, they get like a little care package, and then they provide them with a card, one of the cards that the kids made. So, it's nice. They're really super excited to see the cards. When I showed up with them, they're like, oh my gosh. So,
And it's nice at the end of the program too, because they'll do a walk around the school and everybody comes out and honors them, so it's really nice.
It's one of the highlights of the year, like for me personally. We have a dare service coming up on Friday during that half day. We create blankets for Solution Center. We used to go out in the community. We're gonna try to incorporate that in the future, but for this year, we're gonna be in-house and the whole day is gonna be dedicated to having fun activities for our students, but also creating blankets for the Solution Center. How many blankets do you think we do per year?
well, this year we're gonna do just over 20 blankets. And then the kids that not everybody enjoys doing the blankets and tying the blankets. So the kids that don't want to do the blankets, we'll be making holiday cards that we will be donating to a couple of the nursing homes in the area. So the cards are actually, as part of our writing project, we wrote and did the rough draft and then final drafts of the cards in the last couple of weeks. So then it'll actually be the card creation. Will be on the day of service, and then they just put their message inside the cards on Friday. So, and then those will be delivered locally as well on Friday.
A couple more things we do throughout the year. We do Valentine wreaths, and we also do May Day baskets for local nursing homes. I think overall, what we wanted to highlight in this presentation of the board is that besides classroom, academics, we are trying to create well-rounded students and provide opportunities for them to serve the community and to do other things. So that's in essence what we wanted to present today. I'd like to thank my colleagues for coming here today and speaking in front of the board. And do you have any questions or anything you want to add?
No, I just think the whole idea of creating this community service attitude is awesome, and you guys are great examples of that. So, you're giving them your own time to do this stuff, and it's a good example to the students, and really appreciate that.
And I think the kids, like we did the bell ringing, we did 3 shifts of bell ringing in the last couple of weeks. And our Oriole leaders will go and they'll do Feed My Starving Children. They'll do that in the springtime. And what you're saying there is exactly why, we do it, because they really enjoy it. Like they're like that, like even the bell ringing, where you would think that, that's kind of, it looks like, oh, that's easy. Well, until you do it once. And then you realize like how people, right? Until how people look at you, and then how people go the way around you, and right. And the kids, and when you're there with them and you can have these conversations with them about it. And in the same with when we do the May baskets and we do the flowers or the Valentine's wreaths and things like that, we talk a lot about that with the kids. It's not just like, oh, we're just doing an art project. No, this is why we're doing it, and this is the results that we get from that. We have kids go with us to deliver the things. So when you show up with a box of all these wreaths and you show up at a nursing home and they're waiting for you, the kids that have the opportunity to go, I wish you could take them, take all of them. But when you show up there, they're so excited, and the kids leave there and they're just
we did
super excited.
We did some fundraising for Iro, the police dog, and we had Officer Halpa come down. Yep. And it was really nice. On the way out, he said, and the kids that's the best part for them, and he said, I have never received a reception like this before. Mm-hmm. So they were so excited to, show what they've done, and, they like that.
And the heavenly hats that we did in the fall. So the kids could wear a hat and they paid $1 to wear a hat, and then we took that money and we donated to Heavenly Hats, and we talked to the kids about what Heavenly Hats is, and if you're not familiar, Heavenly Hats provides hats for cancer patients. So there's a Google form, you can go online, you fill out the form, and you can have the hat delivered to somebody, or, you know, however you do it. And I had 3 students that donated, and then when they found out when we talked about what we were doing, they went online and had hats sent to family members that have cancer and got them hats. So they were super happy. They were like, we didn't even know this was a thing, you know, so, yeah, it was cool.
Another place just throwing, we did Meals on Wheels too, so we made placemats. So they could just bring their different meals, they decorate placemats, we did a 4th of July round, we did, you know, different things like that. So it's just, you know, there's so many opportunities out there for our kids to see how much we can give back, and just that those little things make such a huge difference. So it's a great place to foster that conversation and have that. So
Thanks for opening that door for our students. You know, like, it's such a amazing thing that you're able to do. And then also, you know, keeping the door open for the many stories that can't or aren't there yet. And that nest is so extraordinary. And I've seen a lot of different nests in my career, and it's what they do and what they've done. I got to talk to Sarah's daughter for a while, and the energy behind it, like, and how excitement, the passion behind it. That's the amazing thing that we got going in, you know, in our district, especially at BAMS too as well. And what you all bring, that doesn't just happen. So we're really fortunate for all of you and what you bring back. So appreciate y'all.
And as you guys know, that type of engagement just adds to the whole school experience too. You know, I remember being drafted into a new key club in high school and didn't know what that was, but first activity was their old peanut sale for a little bag of peanuts for a nickel out at a shopping center in Green Bay. And I thought, all right, I'll try it then. It was awesome. We had a blast and interacting with adults that would buy the peanuts, and from there it just kind of took off. So I've always been interested in that. So very nice.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
You bet. Thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for sharing. It's amazing all the items that are going on, so thank you. Our next, I think I see Abe. Our next item is Horace Mann High School Student Council. So Abe, it's all you.
Thank you. So, yeah.
We want to hear. Yeah.
This is a 3-hour presentation. So, you know, Dave's been working on this for some time, right? Yeah. He gave you an hour. No.
First off, happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah.
Me personally, I can definitely feel the breaks lingering over. We just got to make it till Friday, but definitely I wanted to wish happy holidays to everybody. First thing I wanted to bring up, and this is funny because I totally forgot about this today, but we have school dress-up days this week in the high school, and today, obviously, Monday, it was Christmas pajama day, and I walked in and I see everyone wearing pajamas, and I'm like, did I miss something? And then it's Christmas pajama day. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But yeah, that was amazing. We had great participation. Tomorrow will be Christmas accessory day, so you can wear your Christmas socks, a Christmas hat, any Christmas jewelry you have. That'll be tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, it is red and green day, and you have to wear both to be participating. So you can't just wear green, you can't just wear red, you gotta wear both for it to count. Thursday is favorite Christmas character day. And then rounding it out on Friday is ugly sweater day. And students and staff are given a ticket for participating and can enter a raffle to win prizes. So at the end of the day in Oriole time, there'll be a PA announcement from Mrs. Coe, and she gives you all the updates and then chooses these winners, and you can all go to her room and get your prize. Next on my list is Turf Wars. I think Faith might have touched a little bit on that. last meeting, but it's done now, so we can give you the full completed update. So Turf Wars was a student council sponsored competition between Oriole Time homerooms to see which class can donate the most money. So the Oriole Time homeroom with the most donated money per grade level won dilly bars. So I think that gave some people a little extra incentive. So the freshman class homeroom winner was Mr. Reed Hansen. The sophomore class homeroom winner was Mr. Bryce Hansen. Junior class homeroom winner was Miss Sarah Drews, and senior class homeroom winner was Miss Caitlin Immel. The more important number though, in total, we raised an astounding $1,203, which is absolutely fantastic. So the money we raised is used to support local families through the FLC Angel Tree, the Giving Tree, and Salvation Army. Student council members shop for gifts after school on November 29th and wrap the gifts for the FLC Angel Tree on December 6th. I wrapped the gifts. It wasn't pretty on my part. Let's just say that's not my expertise, but we had some truly amazing gifts, and I hope they will bring a smile to a lot of people's faces. Next thing is the Salvation Army. So this past Friday, excuse me, 32 Key Club members went on a trip to help pack gifts for the Salvation Army Angel Tree. And this Wednesday, 39 Key Club members will be helping with the Salvation Army Angel Tree distribution. So that is absolutely phenomenal. We've had donut sales and bake sales at our school, and it definitely is a fan favorite for sure. So our bake sale and donut sales were held by National Honor Society and Key Club during the month of December, to raise funds for charities. So that's truly amazing. And when everyone sees it, the line gets pretty long, for sure. Another thing we got going is the 50-50 and wing fling at games. Members of National Honor Society, Key Club, and Student Council have been busy selling tickets at our sporting events for various charities and Oriole Nation. So if you're at a game, watch out for those white buckets waving around. It's really fun. The wing fling, you get to shoot a half court shot. I got the opportunity to shoot a half court shot. It was very close. But, it's pretty fun. Just to get picked is pretty neat, and it goes to a good cause for sure. We also did the Optimus Pancake Breakfast. That was through Key Club. We had 19 members participate. Their duties included setup and taking down, serving meals, and compiling takeout dinners. As a result of our efforts, we received a check for $150 from the Optimus Club. The NHS Oriole Nation raffle is pretty big, so that's going already, our NHS Oriole Nation raffle. All of the National Honor Society members have sold their tickets, but if you're still looking to be in said raffle, the high school band is going ham on selling these tickets. So they are still selling if you are looking to buy one in hopes of winning. We also had the A&W tree unload, and that was also through Key Club. We had 5 members along with Oriole Nation help unload 800 plus trees through that. And lastly, my last thing is we had some amazing music concerts. So this past Wednesday, there was a choir concert featuring the concert choir and the show choir. Truly amazing. And then this Wednesday, there's a band concert starting at 7 p.m. featuring the Oriole Band, which is our freshman band, jazz band, and symphonic band. So we hope to see you all there.
Hey, what was your favorite song to sing at the choir concert?
Oh, That's a good question. It might have been, it was either the last song, which was Mele Kaliki Maka, or, oh, I'm blanking on the name. It was the second one. I can remember that. Carol of the Bells. That was my favorite.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Mele Kaliki Maka was a nice version for sure. You guys did well.
Thanks.
All right, any questions for Abe?
Must mean I did something.
Nice job.
We will now proceed on with, no. Thank you all.
Bye, buddy.
Bye, thanks
See
everybody.
you. Have a great night.
Guys.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
All right, well, Abe, you don't get to leave early, you get to stay for the rest of the meeting. You can go if you'd like, Abe.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for presenting today again. All right, our next item is
Whenever you
clerk's
want.
report, so Vicky, I don't know if you wanted to share that.
Sure, I will, share donations. We have Backpack Buddies. Denise Gation Brooks, $50. Wayne and Janice Shingen, $50. Tammy Schmitz, $50. And then Adopt a Family. Chris Schultz, $100. Helen Levina Draves, $200. American Auto Auction Group, $550. And clothing. 2D Properties LLC, Dave Mann, $150. Deanna Schaefer, $1,000. C.W. Smith, $500. And Air Tech Heating, $500. Thank you to all of our donors. Great list.
Yeah, that's awesome. Huge list this month, so thank you to everyone. Our next item is citizens' comments, so I'll pause. I don't think anyone's in the room, but if anyone would like to make a comment, now would be the time for citizens' comments.
Dave Mann.
All right. Dave. Awesome. All right, well, no comments at this time, so we're gonna move on to our next item, which is the superintendent's report, so Matt, it's all you.
All right, John, thank you so much. We put these into buckets. So our buckets are based on our strategic plan. And the first is we're going to cover the safe, emotional, healthy schools. And really talking about activity sportsmanship. This is something we sent out to all families in the district about a week ago. Just reminding, the importance of these events that we get to be part of and really reflecting back on the moments that they provide for our students and provide for our community and how we can be the best we can be within those frames, not only as like a team, like in terms of community, but also in our own regards of like, how can we stand up and own, really represent the values of what we want and how we want to brand our school district when others come into our gyms, when we share who we are. And in collaboration with other district leaders, we put this letter together, just reinforcing the importance of this and the sportsmanship of the game, and how that's really transcends, the game itself sometimes too, so that we can model those great behaviors, so that players as well as other teams and other people who are coming into our worlds really know who we are as individuals. So we're working to cultivate that day after day, and we're taking baby steps to make that happen. But I just wanted to bring that forward to everybody in here, just saying that we're, really adamant about living and abiding by those components, those beliefs that we are here at the school district. So that's about the essence of this. And I don't know if everyone was able to see this, but I think it also went on our Facebook page as well as our announcements that we usually have as well. So just kicking that out for everybody to bring that back. And again, we encourage, us to continue to come back to this, because obviously, as gamers and people who are at events, we get excited about the game and the play, but we got also remember that, it is a game and that we're here to support and really build up our players and others within that frame, and really look at it from those respect, positive engagement, the role modeling, adhering to the rules of it and then supporting the environment that we're part of moving forward. Any questions about this? Okay, and that's just continuously, moving towards it as we move on. Moving in the second bucket, if there's no further questions about that, is looking specifically at our learning and academics. And I'm going to turn over to Mr. Broughton to share a little bit about state report card and school report card for all of us. So, Mr. Broughton, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Dr. Mino. And I'll just, I guess, come up here so people aren't having to turn their backs or anything like that. But school report cards, those came out in mid-November. I was looking back, this is the 12th year we've had those coming from our state, so which is kind of crazy to think it's been that long. But just to remind all of us, through those 12 years, the calculations have changed and there's been some differences throughout those years, but the last 3 years have been consistent with those calculations and what goes into those. So just to remind us as well too, I think everyone on here has been through this a little bit before, but the report cards at the state level are looking at multiple years worth of state assessment data and multiple, I guess, calculations within that. So looking at achievement and growth, and then looking even most recently at our bottom quartile students. They look at that across the board for every report card. So with that said, too, some students are going to count their test scores, are going to count multiple times on that assessment depending on the student. So basically what I provide for you is just a little bit of the scale score for 3 stars and above. They still have that scale rating where every school gets a rating from 1 to 5 stars. And then just a snapshot of what that current score was for either the district or each of our buildings, what that last year's score is. And then I also put in there just that state average just for context. Couple things just to note here when you look at Trefort Way's report card, just know that because of the newness of that building, they're only looking at 2 years worth of data. And actually there's a whole part of their report card that they don't have a score for. So it's really kind of there's just some missing calculations there when you look at that. And comparing that school to other K-9 schools in the state, they're the only one. So kind of a unique building. So I have that charter school average there too for context, but really there's really not a school like that as far as the makeup of demographics, but it'll be interesting to see that report card next year when they have those full calculations. A couple other things I like to mention too is just I've gotten good enough to where I can kind of predict just based on those test scores when we get those back in the summer, kind of what these numbers will be. So it's nothing we really wait for to see these numbers come out. We start to think about what we need to do or what we need to work on. The other piece I provide you is just kind of breakdown of those last report cards for the district and the schools going back for those 12 years. So and then I like to kind of just, again, for context, just kind of see where we rank and where we fall within different demographics that you can see on there. So again, we've kind of been through these a few times. So, I guess for lack of anything else, I'd love to just open up to you all for questions, or if you want me to go in deeper and explain a bit more about those, we can do that too. But just curious what you all think. And
yeah, I had a question, and sorry if I interrupted you there.
No, you're good.
A little bit of lag coming through. Looking at this overall district, Mark, it seems like, we had, going into COVID, we had some good momentum, a good growth. And then, post-COVID, we took a step back, started building that momentum again. What do you see, what was the slip in last year that we did continue to climb on that overall score piece? What would you contribute that to?
Yeah, and just for context too, so those overall scores in the 70s that I think John's referring to, that they changed kind of the calculations really big at that point. So it's really tough to compare overall score to overall score, but definitely these three are on that same playing field. But I think a couple things, John, just to speak to that. One is COVID kind of hit our district and our buildings, I think, harder than others. Just I think for the makeup of our community and different things for that. So kind of like you said, John, we're kind of recovering from that, whereas looking at other schools, other districts, a lot of their scores kind of just flatlined, and not just scores on the report card, but scores on their proficiency levels. Maybe we're getting some feedback there. Sorry, I'm hearing myself. And then those last two scores, I mean, it typically, again, those are probably statistically for the state report card, we're kind of at that same point, really. Some interesting things, again, I think the district report card is looking at us as one big school, so it's the same calculations as the school report cards, but it's looking at all that data put together as one big school. So I would say things, I guess there's a couple highlights, John, in some of those school report cards. So for instance, with math, our math numbers at FLC proficiency went up about 128% from kids not proficient to kids proficient. So that was a huge mark that helped our score, but then we had at some of our buildings, or at one of our buildings, we didn't see that jump. So again, some of that stuff can kind of cancel each other out. And then for reading overall at the district level, we went up about, let's see, about 45% increase in proficiency across the district. So kind of to answer that question without getting too into it, just kind of sometimes, again, some of those numbers, John, are some pockets are helping us, and there's some pockets that aren't. And that's kind of going back to what we talked about at our last board meeting, that, you know, there's specific things we're doing where we can have that collective efficacy so that we're all moving in that same direction. We're all working towards those same things so that we don't have pockets of good things happening, but we're replicating where those good things are happening, and so that it's happening throughout the district. Kind of a long answer there, John, but does that, I mean.
No, I appreciate you sharing. I guess the thing I noticed from 21-22 to 22-23 is, the overall score went down, less than 1%, but our overall rate went down. So I guess my question was more like holistically, like obviously the whole state went down.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if our rate, we went down, so I just was wondering what was contributing to that from a macro level, instead of if there's anything out there that you're seeing from what you know.
Yeah, no, and definitely the trend is for every report card, so district, high school, middle school, and elementary, the last 3 years, those average report card scores have been going down. That's not necessarily true for our district. Again, we're kind of most likely trending up in most cases for that score. I think some of that, John, is, again, just that recovering from COVID. And I also think, kind of other theme that's always out there is state test scores tend to get worse as kids get older. So 3rd grade scores in our state are our best for math and ELA. And then when you get to 11th grade, they end up being probably the worst scores when it comes to proficiency rate at that point. So hence, John, there's some new laws coming out with reading specifically that the state is pushing down to our K-3 to kind of combat that students aren't reading on level across the state that we want them at.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I guess a couple of things. I think this overall number, I get it's a way, but in my mind, it's a made up number, right? They keep changing it. And if you look at our number, basically 25% is graduation rate and 25% is absenteeism or something. So the real change when you compare the schools is the achievement versus the growth. And because we score so low on these tests, very little of our achievement counts towards this overall grade. In all of the schools, most of the grade is made up of growth. And the funny thing, or not funny, the thing about the growth is it's not growth compared against everybody else. It's growth compared against just because we're one of the worst performing schools. And the achievement score, we compare it against likewise the lowest schools. So if you look at our overall achievement scores, which is a raw number with no state monkeying around to make everybody feel good about where they're at, our scores are still way down on the bottom. Out of the 421 districts, You know, we ranked 378, 385, 350, 390. So we're still way on the bottom on the achievement numbers. And especially like BAMS, it does, I mean, what you're saying about it getting worse from FLC or from elementary to middle school is true, I think. But like for us in reading, in the below basic, which is the worst number, FLC does, I mean, fairly well at 22%. But BAMS goes up, and then at high school it gets better. So our middle school in the reading is worse than our high school. And then the math, it's virtually even. So it's really good at friendship this year. But then it gets really bad at BAMS and the high school. So to me, I don't see a lot of value in focusing on this overall score. I see the value in looking at the actual achievement numbers and where you stand on those, because you don't get the state futzing around in there trying to make everybody happy.
And that's one of those, that's a great point. That's one of our talking points internally is we don't focus on growth, we focus on achievement, because we know that too is life-changing for kids. So it's kind of these pieces here that make the numbers look good. Those don't matter too much as, hey, we want our kids to be really well equipped in reading and math and anything else we give them. So yeah, definitely getting that achievement piece, you know, in our district is not where we want to be, of course.
So either trade school or college, they're not gonna ask you where your school ranked on this.
Exactly.
They're gonna ask you what your achievement scores were on ACT and SAT and things like that. So I would rather see us focus on the achievement scores than on these, because.
Well, and that's what, you know, I think where we're starting to frame now. Okay, this is coming to year 2 into this work, but what Adam was talking about last time with collaborative teams, and now as buildings are digging into that, you know, those data digs, I mean, we're seeing some of those root causes of why specifically we're looking at those lowest trends in some of those areas, and those are the things that are really bringing down that achievement. And so when you look at those and where, like, I'll just give an example, like, you know, FLC knows that they have to do, you know, phonic awareness because it just hasn't been prevalent in a lot of things. Too, if you get specific by math, I mean, they're even like looking at each grade level saying, we know that the lowest thing for grade 1 is to count to 120, starting at any number less than 120. You know, that specific dial in, and then everybody going to that. Same with the middle school and the high school. They're all looking at, like, for example, when we look at reading, for the middle school, they know that their lowest area right now is like craft structure and integration of knowledge and ideas. And so knowing these specific pain points or this is our current state, they can start addressing that. And so we have coaches like Jen Towell and others and Tammy Rademan, who's part of the math component, but they dial into specific strategies. And then as Adam was indicating, we all have to do this universally with fidelity to even see the needle start moving. And that's what we're starting to do as a whole group. I mean, I could go on to the, you know, high school is really focusing on academic vocabulary and word meaning, so that, you know, you can really dial into that reading component, because we know by the numbers, if you do these things and you start changing that achievement score should go up if everyone does it with fidelity. Our job is to make sure people are doing it with fidelity and focus on that one area. So,
and I guess that's one of my, I agree with what you're saying. I guess what I'd like to see us focus on as a board is understanding what those issues are.
Yeah.
Rather than.
Well, Adam, can we walk through these issues with you at some point in terms of the data? Yeah.
I'm not saying tonight.
Yeah.
But my point is, I'd rather have us focus on what the issues are and what's being done than this. And then the last thing I had sent you guys a note, you know, about what things I want to kind of cover was, you know, we only get snapshots a few times a year on student performance. So I try to look for correlation between them to see if everything's going the same way. So do the state test match what we see in the STAR test to what we see in the ACT test? And do the grades match that as well? And from what I can see, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, because you have more, the standardized tests are all kind of trending the same way, and you can see the correlation. But when I looked at the STAR test that students took when they came back to school, the 8th grade, both reading and math, were pretty miserable. I mean, 70% scored below average on both tests. And a few weeks later, the first quarter grades come out. Almost the entire 8th grade class is on the high honor roll. 90 kids are on the high honor roll. When a few weeks before, they weren't even average. 70% were below average on these tests. So I'd like to understand how that happens, and because my concern is we're sending mixed messages to the students and the parents, right? We're giving them these standardized tests that say, hey, our kids need improvement, your kid needs improvement, but by the way, they're on a high honor roll. I mean, I don't understand how that works. So I was hoping you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, no, and that's obviously a big question beyond kind of talking right here, but kind of the short answer is yes, we've definitely seen that too. We know that our STAR assessment, which kind of helps us track if we're on progress, definitely those same trends we see there, we see in the state assessments, but the grades are not something we track as like, these grades are saying that we're moving learning in this direction. Now, right now, our grades are an indication in some cases of learning, sometimes an indication of kids just completing work or doing what's asked of them. Where we want to make that shift to, and where it comes within our work of collaborative teams is having that conversation around, hey, what are our grades mean, so that we're not sending a message to parents that that is contradictory with that data. So kind of with that progression where we're going, we're not there yet. That's not a focus of ours, is to say, hey, let's change how we grade. Our focus is on student learning, and then that's going to lead to us changing how we grade, because we want to put our time into that learning piece, and then say and look at like, okay, now what does a C or an A mean? And now let's get consistent on how we grade kids, and again, give parents information. Hey, here's what your child knows. Here's what they don't know how to do yet, and here's how we're going to give them that information. So,
and that's really year 2 of the evolution of this. So like year 1, we're really just figuring out, like, breaking down those standards, figuring out those learning targets, turning those things all aligned so that we know that we're all at least in the same ballpark. Next year, we're talking about, like, when we assess students, how are we assessing them? Is it accurate? Are we calibrating against each other? So if I'm teaching social studies and you're teaching social studies and we're both teaching U.S. history, that student, no matter what classroom they're in, they should, depending on the evidence that they've produced, it should be virtually the same in that grade, if you want to call it that, or that mark. And that comes down to meaningful, accurate, consistent measures based upon rubrics and scales that we're calibrating against everything else. That's the work. That's the tough lift, because you're right now, there isn't really an alignment between those 2 frames. And we want to get closer so we can use it as a triangulation point to say, yeah, we know this is where these students lie based upon what they're sharing this is. And this is the growth in a lot of districts. We're one of very many, but it takes time to get there. And I think I like the trajectory of where we're going, because that's year 2 in this work. And it is going to be kind of fascinating to see that all play out when it comes down to it. But we'll get closer to that, the real identity of, like, being not subjective, but this is what we have based upon what we have within our frame. Adam, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll just add, some of the mistakes I think I've seen other districts make with that is they make that change in the grades before they know why they're doing that.
Right.
And then, like, my children, where they go to a school where they did that first, so they went to like a number system. So if I ask them, what's a 4? It's an A, Dad. Oh, so it's just a different symbol to mean an A, B, C, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking, again, to have whatever symbol we give parents, it's going to communicate what kids know and are able to do. So it's more informative for that. And with that too, there's some practices that we're going to have to probably move away from, and practices we're going to move towards with grading. Things like, hey, do we grade every single thing we give kids, or is it all, or some of it practice to learning that essential skill they need to learn, where then, hey, we don't grade practice. Practice is practice. So sometimes we're maybe overgrading in certain cases, where then that inflates that number, where maybe it doesn't give us that true triangulation point.
So you did all this work, you got all this percentage, and obviously it boosts your calculation of the score, right? Versus, was it really showing anything about the learning, or are we just doing it to do it? That's what I'm just interpreting, and that's, we like to call that playing school. And like, how do we get into more of, like, you're actually showing us evidence, and the work that you're turning in or sharing is that element of, like, okay, I'm owning this, and this is what I've got, and this is where I'm at right now. And I want to continue to drive further up that scale or that mountain. I'm not going to stop here and be satisfied of how can we keep students moving that direction as well. Yeah.
And I have a question. When you look at the report card, you know, it shows in that growth area where our number is better than 85% of the school districts in the state.
Yep.
And, you know, and I always, I guess, assume that that's a good thing, better than being worse than, you know, most of the school districts in the state. But what actually goes into that calculation without, you know, getting too detailed, but growth on its own, the definition of that sounds very positive.
Yeah, and Rick kind of mentioned, so it's value added growth. So schools or students like ours, how much of those our students grow compared to other schools and students like ours. So basically they're looking at how a student scores from one year to another year on average, and then looking at how our kids do. So there's those 4 proficiency areas, so that below basic, proficient, and advanced. So when kids jump up a level, that gets us points on that calculation for growth. So again, we might have kids jumping from below basic to basic, where that boosts that growth score, but we want kids getting below basic to proficient or basic to proficient. We want to see more kids in those areas, is what our focus is. And that's, again, back to the standards. We're not teaching to the standards to help kids grow. We're teaching them to learn that level of learning, that standard. So some of it, again, in that calculation, when kids jump levels is where they're getting points. And again, that's a good thing, but we want more than that.
The key thing is, what you said, like students. So when they're doing this comparison, they're not doing it to the other 421 districts. They're doing it to districts that have scored the last couple of years like we have. So if we scored 378 out of 421, we're getting compared to 378 to 421 districts. How did we grow compared to them? Not how did we grow compared to the top 100 districts. So, which, I mean, I understand why they do it. I mean, and there's rationale behind this whole poverty rate or the economically disadvantaged. I mean, I get all that, but it sends if you don't really understand the data, it sends a mixed message that, hey, we're really growing. Well, we're growing compared to districts like us, not to 421 other districts, which is why I get back to the raw achievement number tells you where you really are.
Yeah, and really, and I think I've said this before, in the ideal world, these calculate will have so much proficiency that our growth won't look very good after a while, because we won't have as much room to grow and we'll have higher achievement, so then our scores will probably go down just based on how they calculate this. So that's kind of what we're looking for, is these scores to go down because we're having more kids proficient.
Well, and one of the reasons in our schools this year that they dropped a little bit in the overall score was because the amount of growth in the calculation dropped and the amount of achievement went up a little bit. So in a couple of them, they used growth 5% less than they did last year and put more weight on our achievement, which means our overall score is going to go down because our achievement is low. So that's one of the reasons these numbers dropped, is because they changed our percent. And each school is different in how they, I mean, I read through how they do it, but it was over my head, so I guess I would have flunked that part.
Yeah, I think there's a 200-page manual on the calculations that I perused that actually a couple of years ago, but
I assume that they're not tracking individual students. So another variable with each year is you have different students in each district. You know, the seniors graduate. Kindergartners come in and people move in and out of districts.
Yep. They do only put in the calculations kids that have been with us for that full year. So if a student moves in partway through the year, they'll still take the state assessment. That won't be in our score. So they do try to take that out of the equation. So, but yeah, again, I think, this is something that we look at. It's something I think it's good that we talk about, but yeah, we, some of the work we're doing too is mindsets kind of around what you're talking about on changing our adult mindsets on, hey, there's nothing wrong with our kids. Even if you look at certain numbers that maybe say learning's going to be harder or trickier for them, we have to have that mindset, hey, all of our kids can learn. That's one of our expectations. And we plan and do work around that and around, we hope they grow. Again, if they don't get the proficiency, we want at the very least them growing, but we're shooting for that mark of them learning what is expected of them. So.
And another problem I've always had since it started the standardized testing is that it doesn't mean that every student that goes here, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, but that doesn't mean every student that we have enrolled is performing poorly or at near the bottom compared to others. We have top-notch students that are going to top universities and great careers and stuff too. So when people ask me about that and should they, send their kids here, and and I've always felt if the parents and the kids are serious about getting a good education and they happen to be intelligent kids, they're going to be very successful in life too. So.
Yeah, no, so true. And again, we've had those pockets of excellence where we've been above the state average in certain points in certain buildings, but we want that to be replicated so it's across the board. Again, this year for elementary math, we're above that state average, which again, the state average was 45% proficient, where we don't want to stop there. It's not like, okay, now we relax because we did that. No, we want to, we believe all kids can learn. So we want to keep pushing past that state average and get all of our other buildings up to that and past that mark too. So again, that's where our conversations are and where we're going with all that work.
It's so important for us to understand the issues so that we can do what we can to support you in solving those issues and figuring out where we need to spend money to do that.
Well, that's, again, tying into at some point that scheduling piece, we know we have our teachers have the ability to talk and collaborate and plan together. Like Dr. Mino mentioned, having conversations around what kids are learning, what they aren't learning, what we do next, that can be a powerful thing. And right now we have some time for that, but that would be a piece that, can breed more of that movement. Typically, when we look at those moments where really good things are happening, it's kind of around that collective efficacy that we have teachers talking about the right things and doing the right things. So, and the other thing I'll say too is, again, I always say with data, and I'll tell our staff this too, every assessment is what it is. So again, when we look at ACT, it's a really different assessment that we hardly ever replicate for kids, right? It's a time test and, it's very formalized, whereas in the classroom, we're not doing that, right? It's a lot of collaboration, a lot of talking, things like that. The STAR assessment is a great assessment, but it is what it is. It's not as stringent as state assessments, but it's kids sitting down on a computer, taking the assessment. So when we think about that data lining up, again, our grades are probably never perfectly going to match any of those or our STAR or state test scores, but we want them to be in that same ballpark. And to Rick's point, we don't want to give parents information as a true indicator of where their students at or what their students can or can't do. So there's always flaws in assessment, I say. But all right. And then federal report cards coming up a couple months. So another thing to look at. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on into financial operations referendum update, and I think it was shared already before. It's great to be able to have, obviously, C.D. Smith and Bray, they've been working with us side by side, just kind of, we work with them to release this information, just give people kind of a quick update of where things are at. I think, John, you kind of indicated this already before. I thought this was a really good, just kind of an update, pretty much where things were at that time, but we're flying, and we're very fortunate that we're having weather the way we are. I know it cooled down a little bit today, but it's going to be in the 40s again later this week. It's really helping with the masonry and pouring the floors and getting all that stuff done. I mean, if this would have been a normal winter year, I don't know, Dave, that would have probably slowed us down a little bit more than where we're at right now. But I mean, we're getting stuff done already inside the servery. I mean, that's being built, as we speak. The 2 floors, that weight room, are going to be, done before we know it, including that 6 rooms of the high school. They're going to be very close. we're trying to figure out what new ways that we can get into the middle school and start some of that work prior to the end of the year, so to keep it moving. So we have those things in place. Furniture is almost ordered. That'll be complete by this week. So we're excited about that. A lot of good conversations and discussions with that. I'm just trying to think of anything else that's weight room, even getting, ordering some new equipment for the weight room, because the weight room is going to be massive. It's a nice size. I think there's a picture on here, maybe. Go back. Let's see. There's the addition. There's this. Here we go. I mean, you can't see it. This doesn't do it justice, but I mean, here are the old doors and then the old model right there, but then it goes all the way out quite a bit past, and then there's gonna be 2 floors of that. Branding on all sides. I mean, this is gonna be a really nice state-of-the-art facility for our kids. I think we're looking at having about 12 racks in there for our kids to do workouts and lifting and really, put it all together. So excited about that too. Any questions about the referendum and where we're at with the current projects?
Just a quick one, Dave, back on the ELC pictures with the black sections where the stuff used to be. Is that finished like that, or is there gonna be another?
That's a product, the EFS product, and that's just a finished look on it.
Okay.
We're using that same product, same color, everything that we're at Trefford. I don't know if you've been by there, but we're using some of that insulation and siding that's on there, and so we happen to have some product left, so we're gonna use it up over there.
It's kind of a newer age meets the legacy of it, and that's what the architect was trying to do, is like meet those 2 different worlds on that front. So, but I think for the most part, ELC is close to finalization.
Waiting on signage on the side and the caps to go on, and pretty much it's done.
Yeah.
So, some pictures were 4 weeks ago, so if you look at them, just the change that's happened in 4 weeks.
Yeah, there's actually doors here now, and yeah, it's crazy. Really good stuff though, and just having that driveway too and parking.
You know how hard it is not to drive out on McKinley, don't
I know. It's just, you want to, but get it pulled back out to Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've had some comments about now that the pods, or whatever you want to call them, on the side of BAMs are going up higher. When you drive on Prospect, you can't really see much of that, but if you come around the front of it looks massive now up in there, and people mention they're surprised with that. And I encourage them just go around the front ones and see, and so.
Are they hoping for what? Was there a different hope, Steve? I didn't.
No,
it was just.
No, I guess they just weren't thinking maybe that it would be that.
Oh, okay.
Significant over there.
Yeah.
Or if they didn't remember from back then, when the referendum time was around. But then now to see all 3 of those walls, going up.
Dave, what's the likelihood of us getting, if board members wanted to come and just do a little walkthrough? Do we have to do anything regulation wise, but like getting them in some of those spaces if they wanted to see them?
No,
preview?
best to try to do it during the day. There's lights on the inside, but if you guys do have an opportunity, just let me know and I'll get you in there.
If you like wearing hard hats and, maybe a vest or 2, you're all good. So, it's impressive though, walking through it right now, even before it's all finished, like just the space and how much space there is. This is amazing. We're really fortunate to have this for our district, and I'm excited for the completion, but just the process itself, the journey's been really good. Working with Dave and Dave's work, again, as mentioned before by John, it's just we're so fortunate that he's with us and helping out with that whole process too. So, all right, any other questions on the referendum? If not, I'm gonna go to Panorama World here. If I can click back out, hopefully I can. Let's do this. There we go. Chad, I just want to make sure you can see what we're doing here. So as soon as I get there. All right, and I think I'm gonna have to reset this so I can see some of this stuff. make me log back in quick. John, are
Yeah,
you?
I can see your screen.
Great, cool. So, as mentioned, I think we had prior or previous, we were able to get some data from our families, and we had about 315 surveys taken all together, like we're talking K-12. And we had some really good stuff that came out of it. And I want to start with this kind of too first, because we can kind of walk through these questions and share you a little bit. But overall, on average, these are just some of the things that really I pointed out. And I mean, these are the wins. And there's stuff obviously in current state we still have to work on. But overall, when we look at the full district, our families, really, in terms of sense of belonging, like their kids felt like a sense of belonging here, 94% favorable, meaning like at least somewhat or favorable in that area. 92% of our families believe that we had activities that were favorable for our kids. 92% of our families said that their students enjoy coming to school, coming to class every day. 93% of our families said our principals are creating environments of learning for our kids and for our staffs. And then this is the one that I love too, is like 95% of our families would recommend this district to another individual. That's big wins. And I know it's not a huge survey amount, but it's a start. And I guess before even saying that, we want to share that out with families. We want to be able to, kick some of that data back out. But we also want to say like, okay, yeah, this is it. And here's the current state. And here's what we're doing still to build on that. Like Mike was talking about the activities at the middle school level. People might not even know that. And that's, what are we doing to build those, enhance those? That's just one example of the things that you're going to see here. But this is what Panorama will share with you. And I kind of showed you a little bit of this last year, maybe, if you remember. So out of the 3 through 5 here, grade levels. Oh, this is student survey, excuse me. We're going to flip out of that. We're going to go to family. We'll show you the student survey in a few weeks. But we still cracking some data for that. If we look at 612, there's 111 responses from families. This is the background information. If you look at this, these are the questions. I just want to show you the utility of Panorama. And so this is just 612 players. 91% on all the questions asked, favorable. Okay, so fairly decent within that frame. These are the questions that were asked. In the past year, how often have you visited your child's school? And just so you know, like we had it pulled out like 1 to 3 times, 4 to 6 times, more than 6 times. And out of the population of 111, this is what you got. So for every one of these, we could go and drill down into sense of belonging for your child. Strong sense here with 33, and then okay. The top 2 add to the favorable, so that even if it's an okay, it adds into that zone, and then no sense of belonging in that bottom tier. When we look at activities offered at the high school level, 83% favorable, and about 17% not there yet. So again, another current state that we can build off of and say, how can we, or how might we provide some more information about what we're doing or where we're going with that to our families. And our goal is to get a letter out to the families and say, like, these are some things that we're going to be doing so that they know that the input that they provided, or at least feedback they gave us, is being used. Conversations about your child, or your child having class about learning. Over 97% of our families saying out of the surveyed that they have conversations about class with their children. How confident are you in your ability to support your child's learning at home? 97% said they feel pretty confident to be able to do that from the 612 level. 97% said they're confident in helping their child deal with his or her emotions. To what extent did your child enjoy going to school? 82%. All right, so that's another, like, okay, so why? What are some of those reasons why we're not there yet, or somewhat within that frame? As you see, 18%, a little bit more than some of those other ones. How well do your principals at your child's school create an environment that helps the learning? 87% favorable on that degree. And then these were some of so we got a list of open-ended questions, and really good response for most of those, just sharing out how we can get better within that. And then here's the recommendation, 91% saying that. So this is just looking at the 612. And then if we go back and we look at our K5, same questions for the most part, almost identical. 98% favorable, K5. How often do you visit your child's school? This is just kind of an interesting one. Very few 0 times. We've got a lot of information, 1 to 3 to 6 or more times by a good percentage, which is awesome to see. How much sense of belonging does your child have? 97%. Having conversations with your kids about school, 100% believe they feel they are. In terms of confidence in their emotions and how that's handled, 97% at home. And support their child's learning at home, 99%. To what extent do your child enjoy coming to school or enjoy your child's school? 99%. Awesome numbers. How well do your principals at your child's school create a school environment that helps children learn? 98% favorable. That's an open-ended question. And how much would you recommend? 98% there. So again, just showing you first go at this, first crack. I don't know if we'll do this 2 times a year. We'll probably do this once, come back to it, but we do want to kick that information out soon so that they can see that and then say, thank you so much because I'd like to up the 315 and sometimes people won't really up that 315 much more than what it is until they know that, oh, stuff is being done with my data or what I'm sharing. So that's what our next hope is. Our team did a really good job of soliciting that. They had it all over parent-teacher conferences. They had QR codes. I think we sent it out 3 or 4 times within the mailings and things like that. So it was a good first go at it. Curious your thoughts or questions.
I don't know what the percentages are comparatively, and I'm not even sure where this percentage came from, but I just feel like there was a little disconnect between, you feel you can take care of your child's emotional state.
Yeah.
Versus what we actually have. Seems, I don't know, maybe not.
No, I think it was interesting too, just seeing the percentage of when you looked at in general, like families sharing what they thought, there was a higher percentage there than what maybe they rated the school. And again, and for whatever reason, I just thought that was an interesting notice,
Yeah.
in all those areas. They all said, yeah, I can help my kid with my learning. Yeah, I can do these things. And it's interesting when you talk to some families like, oh man, I can't even handle the algebra right now, So again, the pocket of people that have contributed to this, the 315 who took the surveys, that's what you're seeing in general right now.
Yeah, I think the people who take the surveys are probably the more involved parents.
Oh, I agree with that, yeah. Absolutely.
Other notices or wonders?
I think it's great. I think the sharing out is important. I've heard a few times, we're gonna see the results of that. So that's great.
And that'll come at the first of the year, so we'll have like a package later. I think we might do it by school so the families can relate to that principal and then connect with that principal a little bit more versus district. I mean, we'll have the district's averages on there as some of those key wins or those key boxes, but I think that will help them see specifically what might be happening within their building with their students or with their kids.
That's good.
All right. We made it through the first reading of the policies, so we got through that. I don't know if there was any questions or things that had to come up from that. I think one of the areas, if I'm just recalling back on, we had a little bit of conversation about memorials and student memorials, just in general. One of the things that the policy 7250 was really saying is it's up to the district administrator and the board to make decisions on whether or not a memorial will, take place within the frame. there's been, and we had a chance to talk a little bit about that, but research is saying, and this has not been just this year, but many years in the process, but with trauma and all those other things that go along with this, the idea of actually having physical memorials in places or in schools is not probably the best practice anymore. And there's multiple different reasons, and we can look at the research and show that a little bit deeper. And I know that it's that being able to deal with the grief and to walk through that and to experience that, and we have different satellites, but there's also some other sides that really conflict with that as well. That was the one that we just kind of were, do we as a board, or does the board want to be that decision maker, or do we just want to say we're not endorsing memorials as a district? And I think the cleaner we're at with that, personally, I think that it's a little bit easier, so that when we get to that conversation, hopefully we never do, but we can have that conversation, say we do not endorse memorials on their sites, but there might be other ways of remembering that person or persons within our place.
I said, I just assume not go there.
But that was one of the only ones of question, so that when you're going to review, in the review right now itself, it doesn't say that we're eliminating them, but if we want to table that one to bring it back to have a conversation and say, we'd like to change that to this wording, then we need to do that too.
Yeah, I think that's fine, just not to be involved in that conversation with the committee, but in my past, I've handled a situation at a school where cheerleaders were killed in a car accident going on their way to a thing, and I think there were 4 of them, and 2 of the parents wanted stuff named after their daughters, like the football field that they were building, the complex, and the other 2 didn't want anything to do with that type of thing, and stuff. And it just created a real mess in that district. That was kind of a sidebar to what I had to do there, but you get wrapped up in all of that. So it's probably better just to have a solid policy that we can just relate to, so.
And I guess I'm asking you, like, we can write something up to that degree and then bring it back. Does that seem fair? Because right now the language is almost all in there. It just would have to be like, we're not endorsing memorials moving forward, within the district.
Yeah, I think it can be pretty short and sweet.
Yeah. Okay. Any other topics that I missed that we need to spend more time on within that frame, or the ones that we were reviewing? Very simple on those other sides, so, okay. And then the last thing I had with the future 2024-25 school calendar, we're getting close. I'll talk a little bit about that at some future points for sure. We've got administrative contracts coming up at the end of January, and board candidate signature period, just a reminder, is on the horizon here as well. And then we have our next meeting scheduled for the 29th. So that last week in January. And I have no further items.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, board. For our first item for new business, Matt, can you share what the item is? Discuss and consider first reading of policy updates. And then if I heard correctly, I apologize, we're just gonna withhold on the one policy.
We can still walk through that policy. We just, we would just have to eventually bring something back to say we want to change, and we can do that anytime, because the policy, the way they have it, any memorial has to be approved by district administrator / the Board of Education. And what we're doing is we're going to take it one step further in that write-up, saying we no longer endorse, memorials within the district. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we'll continue as is then, and then in the next iteration of that policy, we'll look at that. Right?
Yeah, because this is the first reading. The second reading comes in next time around.
Okay. All right, awesome. Then our first item is to discuss and consider that first reading policy updates. I know we have that in superintendent's report, but I'll leave it open if there's any other questions before we go to vote on that. Okay, then I'll look for a motion for the first reading of our policy updates for December 2023.
So moved.
Second.
And then roll call?
Matthew,
Yes.
Kowalski, yes, Hawk,
Yes.
Jaeger,
Yes.
Geckerman,
Yes. All right, and then our only other item is to discuss and consider an employee resignation from our closed session. So we had one resignation come in from our Traffic Way team, Kristen Idy. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And wanted to open it up if there's any follow-up questions from the board to Dr. Matt. Okay, then I'll look for a motion to approve the employee resignation I just mentioned.
So moved.
Second.
And then roll call?
Jaeger,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Geckerman,
Yes.
Kowalski, yes, Hawk,
Yes.
Alright, our next item then is to go back into closed session. So thank you for everyone that joined us live today. We'll look for a motion to go to closed session and then we'll disconnect from online as well. So look for a motion for that.
so moved.
I'll second. And then roll call?
Kowalski, yes, Geckerman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Jaeger,
Yes.
Matthew.
Alright, we are then going into closed session.
Good evening, everybody. Have a great one. Happy holidays.